Now, I could be wrong on this, but my research tells me that it's going to be okay for the chickens to eat any beans that do develop out here. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? I hope everybody out there is having a great day. It's a big day for our girls over there. We're going to be moving them to this lush, beautiful soybean cover crop here so they can eat on this stuff. Also going to be talking kind of what we've learned so far this year or within the last year since we started using this grazing system. Maybe what cover crops work well with it, maybe what cover crops don't work well with it. And once we move them on this plot here, then we're going to head on over there behind the barn, kind of right beside the barn, check on our beans and peas we planted a week or so ago. And we might need to go ahead and put up a trellis for those heirloom climbing peas if they've all sprouted. So on our last video, we had pulled the chicken tractor off this plot right here. We got some fall pumpkins planted right there. And when we pulled it off, we kind of just slowly, the last couple days, have been bumping them along here down this little path. And they're right here now. Now, I didn't immediately put them on this plot here because I had to do a little bit of repairs to the back end of my chicken tractor. Now, this probably wouldn't be an issue if I didn't have this little chick lift thing on the back, but you know, it's kind of a worthy trade-off. This thing right here is super handy. Makes it easy for me to move this thing by myself. But since we have those wheels on there, if I'm pulling this thing along some uneven terrain and it kind of dips into a rut and I have to really pull on it, it was putting a little bit of pressure on the back here, and you might can see how it's bowed out a little bit. So what we had to do the other day, I had to just kind of guesstimate on the board length. I didn't want to be getting in and out of this thing. So I cut a few boards, got Brooklyn to get in there, hold them in place, and I popped some screws in here from the outside. It's not my most beautiful work, but it does the job as far as kind of helping to stabilize this chicken tractor a little more, making it so it don't bow out anymore if we're pulling it over some bumps and stuff. So that's kind of why the chicken tractor was just hanging out in this little grass walkway the last few days. I was waiting to do those repairs. I knew it was going to be easier to do them with it sitting on the grass and in that thick cover crop over there. So what we're going to do in a little bit is basically pull them away from us there, make that turn, and then start working on this soybean plot here. So this is my first ever successful soybean cover crop. Tried to do some of these in a no-till plot last year and they just didn't come up well. They like to be kind of thrown and raked into some pretty fluffy soil, get some good germination that way. So this is a variety called Laredo Forage Soybeans. Really happy with how they look. Got some dense cover there. There's a few weeds popping up in there. Looks like a corn stalk over there. Not sure how that got in there. Really happy with the ground cover I'm getting. Starting to see a few little blooms on these right there, a few little pink blooms, maybe a little white bloom right there. These been in here a while and we got a lot of good vegetation here. Now before we move our chickens in here, I want to address a couple comments we got the last time we were really talking about this soybean cover crop. I think it was on our last garden tour video we did. So the first comment had to do with the actual health of the cover crop. So the last time we did a garden tour, I was talking about how, impressed I was with this soybean cover crop, how it looked, nice and dense and lush out there. And somebody commented and said, well, actually your soybean cover crop looks pretty terrible. Looks like it's deficient in calcium. You must not know anything about soybeans. Now, I don't know anything about growing soybeans. That is 100% correct. But when I'm growing a cover crop, yeah, there may be some nutrient deficiencies that it highlights from the soil, but the main thing I'm trying to get from the cover crop is ground cover, dense foliage, so we don't have any weeds trying to pop up through there, get some nice erosion control, and then we have a lot of vegetation for the chickens to eat. So yes, sometimes a cover crop will highlight deficiencies in a particular plot, but I'm not really going to chase those deficiencies while that cover crop is growing. We'll worry about those later. Now, I think this soybean cover crop here looks pretty green. Depends on how the light's hitting it. If the sun's real bright, it may look kind of washed out. But To me it looks pretty green, but it very well could be calcium deficient. We'll do a soil test on this plot before we do any fall planting and see if we have any problems there. And then the second item here, for which we had quite a few comments, has to do with the chickens actually eating the soybeans. Now, I could be wrong on this, but my research tells me that it's going to be okay for the chickens to eat any beans that do develop out here. So this is not like a traditional soybean, green soybean variety. This is called a forage soybean. From my understanding, this Laredo variety is one of the oldest, if not oldest, soybean varieties out there. It was designed for forage, so a lot of people plant it on their wildlife hunting plots so turkeys and other birds can eat it. So I'm thinking if those birds can eat it just fine, the chickens should be able to eat it just fine. It's a black bean, it's not green like most soybeans are. So everything that my research tells me says it's going to be okay. Like I said, I could be wrong, but from what I can tell, this variety here is okay for chickens to eat. So I'm going to lift up the back end with the chick lift, and we're going to pull these girls around and let them start eating some of this stuff. All right, so we got them there. I got them as close to this row of Valencia peanuts as I could without trampling them. And I don't know why these peanuts look so pitiful. I can't figure out what's wrong with them. We'll see if there's anything when we dig them in a month or so. But anyway, got the chickens in there. They seem to be liking them soybean plants pretty good. And we'll just wait and see how much they're able to tear up in a day. So the cover crops we've tried to this point as far as grazing with the chickens go would be the clover, which we started with last fall and winter. Then we used them on a kind of a cool season cover crop mix that had clover, kale, peas, all kind of stuff in it. Then we put them on the sorghum, sudangrass, and the red ripper peas, and now they're on the soybeans. So to this point, I can tell you that the clover and those kind of lower to the ground cool season cover crops work a lot better than these warm season cover crops, which tend to get a lot taller. Not a whole lot we can do about that though. I can't grow clover this time of year. I can't grow it through the warm months down here. So we just have to find the best warm season cover crops that are going to work for this process. Those cooler season ones stay low to the ground. They make it easier to pull the chicken tractor through there. They regrow a lot better. It just works better with that system. In the warm season, we have to make a few adjustments, help them out with the mower a little bit sometimes. So for this millet here, which they'll be grazing once they're done with those soybeans, I'm definitely going to help them out with a mower. This grows a lot like that sorghum sudangrass does. And so once this gets a little taller, it's just going to be tough to pull that chicken tractor through there. And a lot of times the chicken tractor will just lay it down so the chickens really aren't eating it as it's standing up. So with these type of cover crops, the millet and the sorghum sudangrass, what I found the best thing to do is to come in here and mow it and just kind of chop and drop that organic matter onto the soil there. The stuff will regrow, and then as the chickens are working through it, they're scratching around, incorporating that stuff, eating some of it as well, and it just makes for a nice combo helping them out with the lawnmower. Now will we have to mow these soybeans here? Help the chickens out a little bit, make it easier to pull that tractor through there? I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out in the next few days or the next few weeks. We'll see just how much of that's in the footprint of the chicken tractor they're able to take down in one day's time, see how much this stuff is regrowing, and we'll just kind of adjust accordingly as we see what happens. Now I'd have to go back and check the published date of a particular video to be 100% sure on this, but I think we're coming up on kind of the year anniversary of us starting to use this particular chicken tractor grazing cover crops in our gardens. And I really like this system here. I'd highly recommend doing this if you have a decent amount of land, if you have several different garden plots. It's a win-win situation all the way around for the chickens, your soils. It's just a great thing to do for your garden plots. Now, it has been a learning curve for us down here, just figuring out which cover crops work best for this type of system and which ones don't work as well. And with anything like this, there is going to be a learning curve. The cover crops that do well down here a certain time of year may be different than a cover crop that does well in the middle of the country or the northern part of the country. They don't have to worry about the intense heat, so they can grow some of the cooler season cover crops longer up north than we can down here. Once it gets hot, we have to shift to all warm season cover crops and can't really go back to the cool season cover crops till October. So it's a little different game plan down here, but we're working through it, learning and getting it figured out slowly but surely. All right, now that our chickens are situated, let's check on these beans and peas right here that we planted, I don't know, I think it was a week, maybe week and a half ago. So we got our King of Garden climbing lima beans here on our arch panel trellis. Now these were up as of yesterday, or most of them were up, just starting to emerge from the soil. And then we got a pretty hard rain last night when I was kind of going to bed. It started raining pretty hard, and they have popped since. They have grown a lot just this morning and a little bit of this afternoon. So it looks like they're ready to take off. And when they do take off, I'm expecting that they're going to cover this entire structure here. So when we grew those Christmas lima beans back last year, they covered the entire arch of this trellis, had some really, really nice shade underneath there for picking, and I'm hoping that's what happens with this King of Garden variety. So for those King of Garden lima beans, besides maybe starting an early pest program, you know, just to kind of manage any rust we might have, any insects we might have, we're just going to stand back and watch those things grow. Once they start climbing, they should grow pretty vigorously. Going to be a couple months before we get any beans, but hopefully we'll have some nice harvest once it cools off a little bit. Now for the other row in this plot, we've got these heirloom black climbing field peas, cow peas, whatever you want to call them, that Richard from Tennessee sent us. And these came up much better this time than they did last time because we were able to control the water. We got that hard rain last night, but most of these were already up by then. So we were able to kind of control the water with the drip tape, not give them too much water, nothing washed away, and we got a pretty decent looking stand here. And that's why I always say, if seeds don't germinate, at least the first time, don't blame the seeds. Blame yourself, blame the weather. Don't blame the seeds quite yet. Figure out what you could have done wrong, or maybe what happened with the weather that kept them from germinating well the first time. Change it up. If they still don't germinate, it's probably the seeds. But I guarantee you 95% of the time, it was either you or the weather. So now that we've got a decent stand of these field peas on our second try, we need to give these puppies something to climb on. Now we've obviously got the cattle panels over there for the climbing lima beans, but over here we're going to do something a little different. So I don't have any more cattle panels, but I do have plenty of T-posts, and I got several rolls of this stuff right here, this Hortonova netting, and this stuff right here is really, really easy to install, really easy to take down. I've got the longest T-post I have right here, which are 8 foot tall, I believe. Richard tells me that these peas can climb pretty tall, so I want to give them as tall a structure as I can create with the T-post and this trellis netting here. So all we need to do is get these T-posts hammered in the ground with our driver there, get our netting ran, get it strung tight, and we should be good to go.
Set a good table, take all you need. Set a good table, take all you need. We will see colors that wonder and burst. We will raise glasses that will never thirst. Set a good table, take all you need. Set a good table, take all you need. All you need, all you need, all you need. All you need, all you need. Put it on just like a hiding place. 3 separate eyes.
All right. It's been a while since I put up one of these. So it's not my best installation ever, but I think it'll work. Got it relatively tight, which is kind of the goal here. If it seesaws a little bit down the line, not a big deal. We just want it close enough to the ground there where the plants can reach it with their tendrils, and I surely think they'll be able to do that there. And then we want it just as tight as we can get it with the zip ties there. That way when it does get loaded down with foliage, it won't sag too much. And that's about all I'm good for on one of these hot August days. I'll be honest with you, it is a little bit miserable to be out here in August working in the garden. You just kind of do what you got to do, just kind of muster through it and then go inside and cool off and know that in another month and a half it's going to be a lot better. This time of year I really can't pull those all-dayers in the garden where I'm just out here doing stuff all day just because it's so humid out here. The temperature's not that bad, but the humidity is just suffocating and you'll start sweating being out here just, you know, a couple minutes. But we can see the end of all this in sight the next month and a half, and it'll be a lot better. So we just kind of tough through it right now, get what we need to get done, go inside, cool off, and regroup. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. It was nice to go ahead and get those chickens moved to a different plot so they can start working on that one. And hopefully we can have them done grazing that plot by the time we start putting some fall transplants in the ground and we can actually use that plot. I think it'll be a fine plot to plant some cabbage and stuff in because they'll really enjoy all that chicken manure. And let me know in the comments below if you've ever played around with chickens grazing cover crops, what you found to be the best cover crops for it, and what you found maybe didn't work as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to check out our affiliate links below. A lot of great companies that we use in our gardens here at Lazy Dog Farm. Even got some coupon codes for some of those companies so you can take advantage of those discounts. Don't forget to go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com, where we've got hats, shirts, recipes, recommended products, our garden blog, all kind of good stuff over there. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe, hit that notification button, like and share, and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.
Oh, farewell. By the beauty of your life,